Hello and welcome back to another flute tip of the week. We've been having such incredibly beautiful weather here in London. I've actually had to leave my window open because it's just so warm and you can hear the birds singing. While you're watching this, if you're watching it right on Monday, I am going to be on the beach. I'm going away for a weekend to Bournemouth and I am super excited. Probably for the next video, I'm going to either be sporting a lovely tan or a terrible burn. Hopefully it's the former. For anyone who knows me, they know that I absolutely love sight reading. When I'm back to being able to play for as long as I want, I always go right for the study books and I'll just sight read through a whole book of studies as soon as I'm able to. I also firmly believe in starting every lesson by sight reading a duet with my students. And so today we're going to talk about exactly what to look for when you're about to sight read a piece. When approaching a new piece, always take a moment to scan the music and look for patterns or possible challenges. I'm going to be talking about things you need to look at every time you sight read, as well as some extensions of it for when you are learning the piece properly, as opposed to just sight reading it the one time. First off, take a mental note or write on the paper where there are scales and arpeggios. This will allow you to see familiar patterns, understand that this is something that you can tackle, as by this point you should have a good control of your scales and arpeggios. And the more you're able to associate those with the pieces you're learning, the easier sight reading is going to be and the less intimidating. Look for tempo changes or key changes. Especially if this is a longer piece, you might suddenly be thrown off by a tempo change you weren't expecting, and so you're not sure how fast or slow to continue going. Or have a complete change of key signature, in which case you either react too late or you stop and then try to keep going. And these are things you are trying to avoid. Next, take a note or circle sections which have difficult rhythms or fast note passages that might not run in the fingers very easily. This is good for two reasons. One, you're not caught off guard, and again, you don't have to stop and recollect yourself while you're playing. And two, this will give you the chance to adjust your tempo. If you just jump right into a piece, see that it says allegro, and play it fast immediately, you might suddenly find yourself at a part that is just too much for your fingers, in which case you'll have to stop or you'll just suddenly hit the brakes and completely change tempo and remain at that for fear of hitting another difficult section. Not only in exam situations is this bad, but if you are thrown into some sort of rehearsal or performance on short notice where you're going to be sight reading everything, you need to be aware of what's about to happen. For pieces that you're actually going to be properly working on, as opposed to just using as a sight reading exercise or exam, you will take note of all of the scales and arpeggios that are present in the piece. Just mark these with S and A and later go back and see which scales they are, and then practice those in particular before you start playing the piece. Not only that, but take a look at those rhythms that you thought were going to be difficult before and start applying those to your scales. So the first time you're playing through these scales, you play normal straight quavers, but then the second time you play them, do it in the rhythm that you think is going to be difficult. So for instance, if you have a rhythm that goes da, da da da, da 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 da, you can do your scales as bum ba ba bum ba ba bum bum ba 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 bum. And again, if this is a piece that you are going to be properly working on, mark in the beats for those sections that have confusing rhythms. Even if you're a professional level musician, this is just going to help you have a better understanding of the format and make it easier for you for when you're first playing the piece so that you're not juggling 5 balls all at once. If you can make it look as simple and familiar as you can by looking at these beats, looking at the rhythms, and seeing where the scale and arpeggio patterns are, then suddenly you realize that this piece is completely doable. Pretty much every piece you're ever going to play is going to be built on scales and arpeggios. It is only really in the very modern music that they start to create different kinds of modes, but even then, they follow patterns. And these patterns can all be practiced every day in our technique. It's like what Mozart says, all the notes are there, I just have to put them in the right order. So just follow the steps of marking where you have scales and arpeggios, making note of tempo and key changes, and being aware of upcoming difficult passages. You'll be able to do anything. So again, that tip was when approaching a new piece, take a moment to scan the music and look for patterns or potential challenges. I hope you find this week's tip helpful. I'll see you all next week. Flute happy, sight read happy, pattern awareness happy. You know, no matter what instrument you play or if you compose, attention to detail is important. The other day, I was working on one of my compositions and I thought, finally, I finished this section. Then I look back and I realized I accidentally repeated something. I had to erase a whole page and go another page and a half, and I think, finally, I finished it! Half a page before the end, I realized I made another mistake. Erasers are really a composer's best friend.